So it's been a while, but we're back with some more GALAXIAS. Now the reason I did not cover the last two chapters of GALAXIAS, 17 and 18, is because 17 was only 8 pages and there wasn't much for me to talk about for that chapter, and then when 17 came out, it was revealed that GALAXIAS was going to be moved to a bi-weekly release schedule to a different magazine, which means that GALAXIAS would come out the same week when I do my fairy tale content. So I decided to wait for chapter 19 so I can just do one big batch review of chapter 17 through 19 so you can get all the information out there at once. And honestly, it was a pretty good idea because chapter 19 is absolutely insane and there is some really nice build up with the previous two chapters, which I'm very excited to get into. Before jumping into things, let me ask you guys, would you prefer me doing the chapter by chapter reviews of GALAXIAS as a chapter to release every 2 weeks like I'm doing right now with Fairy Tail? Or would you like me to just do batch reviews of every 2 to 3 chapters and then have something else to fill in the gaps if need be? Let me know in the comment section down below, depending on what you guys prefer. I'll do a poll in the community tab as well, so let me know what you would prefer, batch reviews of 2 to 3 chapters at once or the bi-weekly reviews whenever the chapters come out. Let me know in the comments. And what's more, if you haven't already, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And if you want to see me talk about a bunch of different manga outside of GALAXIAS, go and check out my manga podcast, Shonen Pulse, on the Panel Focus YouTube channel, where me, Nox, and Yatogami talk about 9 separate manga from 3 different magazines on a weekly basis. It's a lot of fun, very in-depth talks and discussions for all these different series. You might find a new favorite or something to read, or we cover something that you enjoy but don't see other people talking about. Go check us out over there. Link is in the title card and in the description below. And if you want to see me talk about comic books, American comic books like Marvel and DC, go check out my second channel, GW Comics, where I talk about all things American comic books. Right now I'm trying to cover each new issue of all the different Ultimate Marvel Universe titles, as well as baseline discussion videos and eventually Absolute DC and other comics. So if you like comic books, go check it out. Link in the description and title card up above and below. Now that out of the way, let's jump right into chapter 17 of GALAXIAS, titled The Fungus Kingdom. Now, I'm basically just going to do brief recaps of 17 and then 18 with later discussion and thoughts before getting on to 19. That way we can go through the brief recap of what we've missed before getting into the meat of these recent chapters. So I apologize if I end up going a bit quicker than usual. So the chapter starts off with our main group in Grib, the mid-air city, where it seems like everything is on the edge of giant mushrooms through this grand canyon. Neraid obviously doesn't know what a mushroom is. Schmidt tries to tell him that it's similar to bamboo. Neraid doesn't know what bamboo is. Then Schmidt just says bamboo's like mushrooms, and that's just enough for Neraid to just accept what's going on. And so as they're walking, the ground obviously is made out of mushrooms, so it's kind of bouncy and firm. But it seems like they harden as they mature, and the mushrooms that they're walking on are brand new. And apparently, with how things have grown in this kingdom, it's actually all been done 500 years ago by a single dragonfolk. And that was the Dragon Knight Grib, as back then, he was a member of the Royal Zodiacs in charge of this one particular region. And that everything, this entire town that they are in, was created from the ability of one singular Dragon Knight from the Royal Zodiac. His power was so strong that he was actually able to terraform this general area of the town from 500 years ago, and it is still growing to this day, which is insane to really think about. Neraid then asks who the Royal Zodiacs are, because he doesn't know who they are after Chalk mentioned them. Schmidt says that it's just a given title to the strongest 12 Dragon Knights that are selected from each of the Dragon Kingdom's regions, and that strength transcends the individuals, and as a military asset, they're on par with other superpowers like atomic bombs, aircraft carrier fleets, etc. And even with advancements of science following the Industrial Revolution, their existence is a major factor in why this country can hold its own against other nations. The mushrooms are the scars of remains from one of the Dragon Knight Grib's battles, and even hundreds of years later, after his death, they are still growing like this, which shocks Geo, as this is just how strong a Dragon Knight, one of the strongest Dragon Knights are. Also, this gives a really nice time frame for how long this Dragon Kingdom has been around. Let me know in the comments if we got an actual date for how long this kingdom has been around. But this one instance does 100% give us an idea of how this entire world is like. They have atomic bombs, they have fleet bomber carriers, etc. So this is definitely after the Industrial Revolution and definitely the invention of nuclear power. So this world is relatively advanced, but perhaps in this one section, the region that they're in isn't as advanced as other nations in this world, but it's because of the Dragon Knights, primarily the Royal Zodiacs, how they're able to keep on par, if not surpass, some other nations with their literal superhuman abilities, and the Dragon Knights are literally human weapons. So that is insane. And from what we've seen, and right now what we've seen in Aftermath from something from hundreds of years ago, I can see why this nation has not been messed with from other world superpowers, and this gives me real good confidence that we will see our main characters leave this region at some point in the future to see what's going on with the other sides of the world, because I would love to see how the outside world deals with dragonfolk and this nation in general. I don't think we're going to get too far into like political stuff, but that's just an interesting thing to look at. But some time passes, and the group are actually asking residents about Yuri Holst, because this whole kingdom is where Yuri Holst was born and where he was from. It was his home, and so asking people who he is, some people don't know who he was, and some people are like, I'm a tourist, and so they don't really get any real information. Schmidt tells him to narrow things down by go down to where the older houses are, and maybe some of the older folk will know who Yuri Holst is. But then some guy carrying a barrel ends up asking why are they looking for Yuri Holst, and they're wondering if he knows him. The guy says he's famous and that he's the trash who killed the Dragon King. This town's reputation has plummeted thanks to him. It's been 6 years and things are finally picking up again. He then throws a bucket at Geo and says, "We just want to forget him. Don't you dare drag up all that stuff again." But Neraid, as a rumbling occurs throughout the page, we are thinking, oh, Neraid's getting pissed because he's, saying something that's pissing him off. But no, turns out Neraid just has severe stomach problems. Honestly, really solid bit and misdirect for that instance. I kind of like it. I did chuckle when I read it the first time. Neraid is in the bathroom. Apparently, he ate one of the random mushrooms on the ground, so that's why he is taking a massive dump right now from a literal mushroom. Neraid, you're the salt of the earth. I love you, man. Now, Geo and Schmidt are sitting outside, but Geo is sitting a little bit away from Schmidt as she still doesn't trust him. And she asks him flat out, what is he after? And Schmidt just says, alright, I have no reason to hide it. I'm the same as your father. My goal is to solve the mystery behind the dragonfolk that nobody has overcome for hundreds of years, the dragon source. So, Schmidt's main goal is to figure out what's going on with the source of all dragon powers in this world. That is called the Dragon Source, which it is honestly really interesting to finally get an actual real confirmation, a bit sooner than expected for his main motives, but it is what it is. This is a short chapter, and we got some good world building and nice information for this very short chapter. But that's the end of chapter 17, so let's jump on to chapter 18, Geo's Adventure. Continuing off from 17, Geo asks him the Dragon Source. As Schmidt says, as someone as knowledgeable as you must know what it is. Geo states that it is the greatest secret revolving around dragonfolk. When and how did dragonfolk come to be? What are dragon powers? As there seems to be no record or traces of it remaining anywhere in the kingdom. As Schmidt ends up going on to say that Yuri Holst, Geo's father, grappled with this mystery for over 10 years, but 6 years ago, apparently, he suddenly went mad. He destroyed all the research data he accumulated and then headed to the palace, where he slew, allegedly, the Dragon King and even hundreds of Dragon Knights that served as his guards. And that's what the world knows as the King Killing. But Schmidt throws a little bit of a jab at her, saying a country bumpkin like her is probably unfamiliar with these events. And yeah, she's kind of pissed off at that. But Geo wants to get something straight. I get what you're after, but what does it have to do with Neraid? As then, Schmidt lays down some really important information, saying the most crucial subject in that research for Yuri Holst was Neraid, shocking Geo, as she asks, wait, what do you mean? Why was Neraid a research subject? As Schmidt says, I learned this about 4 years ago, I've been searching for him ever since, and he just ignored Geo's question right out the gate, and I love her facial expression, it's hilarious. But Schmidt says when Yuri Holst in that research data vanished, Neraid became the next closest thing to my objective, though I never imagined he'd lost all of his memories. And that about covers everything about the goal behind Schmidt and the connection between Neraid, at least so far, and Yuri Holst, and what Yuri Holst was doing 10 years ago, which is interesting pieces of world building, which I do want to try and make other videos on what we know about the series so far. So look forward to that. I do have more GALAXIAS content planned to do in between chapters, so look forward to that. Now Schmidt goes off to go on a bit of a stroll, but Joe isn't satisfied with anything as he didn't fully answer anything, or fully answered any of his questions. Schmidt says, "You're asking that from someone you don't trust." This is a good chance for me to say that my objective is in the end Neraid, and so he's now being incredibly honest right now, and kind of a bit threatening, saying, "I've never had the slightest interest in you. I don't give a damn if you trust me or not. Friendships and the like are nothing more than conveniences. If by chance I were to determine that you're an impediment in my path, I will rectify the situation by any means necessary." As he implies that if Geo gets in the way or is useless to him in any way, shape, or form, he will eliminate her. How true this is going to be, based off of what we've seen from him and what we will see later on, I'm curious to see if he would follow through on that, or if he's just doing this out of his own twisted sense of not wanting to get a kid involved in all this crazy nonsense. Or is just overly suspicious of people and just doesn't trust too easily at all. But Gio says, "I'm sorry, I was being hypocritical and wasn't thinking of your feelings." Well, it's not really quite that, but this is my adventure, so I won't let you get in the way. As she just smiles firmly at Schmidt as he just stares at her with a bit of a discontented look. Despite everything Schmidt said, Gio just standing up to him and just saying, "This is my adventure, I won't let you get in the way with it." I like it. Moments like this make me like her a lot more as a character, so trying to see how her story will play through in the future is definitely something I do want to see. We then cut to after Neraid's bathroom situation, as the two of them are walking through town. Until he realizes after the whole bathroom situation that he is hungry all over again, as yeah, he can't just eat something right off the gate, which is hilarious. As it's then that they see a massive line for a shop selling octopus balls, and apparently they are incredibly well-made giant octopus dishes that are only for one per person. And they're famous for the town, so everybody wants to get at least one, and so it is honestly kind of crazy, especially considering the fact that it might end up being selling out. So that's really nice. We got some local delicacy for this instance. Now, Gio is just getting online, while Neraid and Schmidt end up having their own side conversation, as he says, "Sorry about this," and he says, "I heard you talking with Gio earlier," saying, "Isn't she interesting?" But Schmidt says, "Why do you take Gio off the island? Why did you take her off the island? Your goal is to find Yuri Holst and learn who you really are. You can do that on your own." It's almost as if, but before Schmidt finishes that thought, Neraid says, "Are you trying to say she's a burden? Don't worry, I'll prove that she ain't." As Schmidt's just confused a bit of what Neraid is trying to point out for Gio. And he says, "Well, that'll be clear soon enough. Believe in a seeing or something." As then Gio, just fighting off other people from getting online, tries to save Schmidt and Neraid's spots online, kind of acting like a feral animal to keep everyone away. Is kind of hilarious. But it's in that instance that an old lady ends up collapsing on the ground from a minor injury and drops her groceries. People online are muttering on what's going on. Is she okay? I don't want to get her online. Showcasing that despite them wanting to help her, they are more interested in getting these limited edition food items instead of helping the old lady. Even Schmidt is like, "Look, I feel bad, but her injuries are minor. Even I don't want to get her online, and people have been waiting for hours. And they'll have to wait for somebody else to help." But in that instance, Gio goes up to see if she's okay, to help her, showcasing her kindness, as we then cut to, I assume a few minutes later, as they brought her back to her house to treat her, as she just needs a little bit of first aid. And Neraid brings up the fact that she gave up on the octopus food in an instance that she instantly kind of regrets it for an instance, and I kind of find that hilarious. And she said she moved without thinking and they were almost there to getting what they wanted. Schmidt says that if she's worried about it, then she should just let the woman be, and he doesn't really understand. As Gio says, "I always do this. I get carried away at the most crucial moment. I really don't get it, and it's so creepy. I should just die, huh?" As Schmidt says, "Look, I didn't say that." But then Gio's mood changes to kind of being kind of happy. but it felt like what I wanted to do. I can trust that feeling, as this does kind of give Schmidt a bit of an attention towards her to see how she lives her life and does all these actions. It's then the old lady pops out of her window and actually ends up giving them her own special octopus dishes, as it is, again, massive. While it's not the same as the shop, she makes some pretty good ones, as everybody kind of likes them. Neraid and Gio just being incredibly over the top with their reactions to how good the food is, and Schmidt staying off on his side being like, huh, this is actually pretty good. Even saying that from the size and appearance, it looks a lot better than the shop that we're going to, and it seems that Gio was right after all. And then he stops himself from realizing something, with Neraid saying, well, this is a place we couldn't have reached by ourselves. As Schmidt realizes what Neraid was saying about her being interesting, and then has a soft smile, most likely noticing the fact that with how Gio operates and views the world and her own actions towards helping people, it leads to conclusions and ways that they never could have gotten in their own ways. Schmidt would have deceived and hidden, and he would have tried to just swindle his way through things to try and get what he wanted. But chances are he wouldn't have done in a much more satisfying manner or get information that he probably would have wanted the way he was going to go about things. And Neraid would have just, well, stumbled upon things eventually, but he isn't really great with social situations or even flat-out investigations, so he probably would not be able to find whatever he wanted to look for by himself. So it shows that having somebody like Gio around would actually lead them to a conclusion that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten to begin with. After eating their fill, they kind of realize, oh, we didn't really manage to get any information on Yuri Holst at the end of the day, huh? As then the angry man from earlier in this chapter comes in, and it's revealed that this house is his mother's, and so he apologizes for his rudeness earlier since they helped his mother. As Schmidt says, oh, it's nothing, but we'd love it if you could tell us about Yuri Holst and anything you know about him. As Gio says, you didn't do anything at all, what are you talking about? His mother says, why don't you show them and take them there? As he says, alright, I guess it's fine. As he is going to take them to Yuri Holst's house. And that ends chapter 18 of GALAXIAS. As we then move on to chapter 19, titled Fire Cover. It would have been awesome if this was an actual color page and it would have described the literal cover page. That would have been fun. But also notice how the title of the chapter is placed there. That is important foreshadowing for how this chapter is going to go. But now we are at Yuri Holst's house. A wooden door surrounded by a bunch of mushrooms in an old dark area, seemingly abandoned. As where Yuri Holst's house is, looks more like a forest. This is definitely a quiet old area where nobody lives anymore, as stated by the man from the previous chapter. The mushrooms have no limit to their growth, and not even dynamite will put a dent in them. A lot of towns have been swallowed up like this, and it used to be such a lively place. This is the power of Dragonite Grib. Even hundreds of years later, it can't help but live on. I can't do anything about it either. And honestly, there's a really nice extra layer of world building showcasing that while the aftermath of Grib's ability kind of made these mushrooms continuously grow, it shows that eventually it'll overtake the town, and so they have to keep building upwards again. Think of it like Water 7 from One Piece, with how every year or every couple of years there's this massive tsunami and storm that will submerge most of the town as the sea levels keep rising, so the townspeople have to keep building higher and higher into the air so that they can actually live their lives. So that's a really nice piece of world building. It's not the same degree as that in terms of what the town is, but it's honestly really cool and I kind of like it. It's then that they go to the door and try to go inside. As Gio remembers a time when seemingly Yuri Holst spoke to them through Neraid, saying, "Don't do anything, that's the only role I'm giving you both." Saying, I've always wondered if that were true, he could have left us alone in ignorance. I don't understand why he'd go through the trouble of bringing us together. And if he knows Neraid, then he must know that he wouldn't be put off by something like that. As it sounded more like, find me if you can. That seems to be what Yuri was trying to tell Gio and Neraid. As she's wondering, I want to know what you were thinking and feeling. Honestly, this feels a lot like Hunter x Hunter in terms of Jing just leaving clues and stuff for Gon to find him if he can, presenting a challenge. And Yuri Holst seems to be doing the same thing for Gio and Neraid, because as she said, if he did not come in contact with them, then they probably wouldn't be trying so hard to actively find him. Because before, they were just going on an adventure and then trying to find Yuri Holst if they could. But finding Yuri Holst is one of their main objectives on their adventure now, especially after that message. So it seems like he has some grand plan to have them find him and lead him to a particular conclusion or destination. So that is very interesting. But as Gio walks into the house, she realizes there's nothing in the house. It's completely empty. As the guy says that the government came in and searched the house and they confiscated everything of note that they found ages ago. And he's like, look, I showed it to the place, I'm out of here. Goodbye. Gio is kind of disappointed as they came all this way and they didn't really find anything. Schmidt says, look, don't be so hasty. Yuri Holst must have anticipated this type of situation. There's a high probability that there's still some important info in here. As she realizes, oh, maybe it's some kind of secret room hidden somewhere. And so she starts searching all over the place for anything that stands out. Schmidt says, I'll go check outside just to be safe. But he notices something shifting in the shadows, which catches his eye, as he will eventually go and look for what this thing might be. Gio ends up looking everywhere and even up into the attic, where Neraid calls her over, as it's just a grasshopper being lifted by a bunch of ants spinning around in a circle. Gio is exhausted, and she has lost all confidence in finding any type of information on Yuri Holst, as it seems like the government outwitted them. But Neraid says, they're called adventures, didn't you know? Because they're tough. As this gets Gio's spirits up again, saying that he's right. And he then realizes and finds something, a particular door with a pattern that almost looks like a dragon tail. And so they're wondering what this could be, like a secret hidden room that nobody has been able to find. And Gio then opens the door in anticipation, but what's behind it is absolutely nothing, as everything behind it is completely gone and just a floor of mushrooms, as she is just yelling in anger, which Schmidt thinks is just a cow mooing off in the distance. But Schmidt is walking around town, wondering what that shadow was earlier, as it wasn't an animal, and that they should be the only ones here in this area, as he wonders who it is. As he's walking towards another building, this shadow in a hood ends up shifting away. But in that instance, Schmidt appears right from behind him and slams this guy into the ground, as it's revealed that what we were following was a copy, an illusion of Schmidt that he created using his ability, completely tricking whoever this person is. As Schmidt says, if you don't answer me, I'll just have to see for myself. As when he grabs the hood, his hands end up shifting through it as a bunch of smoke, or mist actually, ends up engulfing him as this person ends up going away, saying, go back quickly, it's starting, essentially warning Schmidt about something to come. I was wondering, starting, what's that? As then we cut back to the house, as a book falls from up high, as Gio goes over and sees that it's the book that she had back home, the book that she gave Neraid's name from, GALAXIAS. As in the next page, she's wondering what this is doing here. As then, in an awesome way to tease something, the two panels are split down the middle and shifted, almost like somebody ended up cutting Gio and the page itself from within the world. This is one of the things I love about GALAXIAS, the way the mangaka plays with the paneling of the manga. And this is 4 panels, but it's 2 bigger panels cut up in a particular manner to showcase something being sliced. It's really, really cool, and I want to see more panels like this because it always stands out. And after this action, we get a 2-page spread of this whole area, multiple mushroom tops with towns and buildings, completely slashed through as everything begins to fall and crumble around, as this knocks Gio back, as she's wondering what happened. And as she looks up, someone says, I've wanted to meet you, Gio Holst. As we see one of the Dragon Knights, Royal ZODIAC Antares that we've met 3 chapters ago before our little break, towering over Gio with the giant mushroom behind her sliced up, as she says, my name is Antares, I shall take your life on behalf of the dragon government. and this panel looks so freaking cool. I'm not gonna lie, ever since her introduction, she became my instant favorite for one of the other characters outside of our main cast. And she just keeps jumping up in how much I like her. This panel is honestly really, really well drawn. It looks amazing, and I just gush over the artwork in this series and how the mangaka knows how to play with perspective and draws things. This showcases a level of intimidation even far above her introduction, and her introduction was a literal slaughterfest, so I'm incredibly excited. We cut back to Schmidt as he got caught up in the giant slash explosion as well, as he's wondering what's going on, thinking that he needs to go to Neraid and Geo, but as he gets up, we see Kerner appear right behind him saying don't move, as it seems like she's about to bring up some of her spider silk around Schmidt to keep him from moving. As we then cut back to where Geo is, as Yerks appears, as he says, ran away from the island with your boyfriend, huh? You got daddy's permission, right? And Geo, with intense anger and hatred, looks straight at Yerks. But in that instance, an explosion happens from the rubble. And in the final 2-page spread of the chapter, we see Neraid and Antares squaring off. As Neraid says, we just got excited about our treasure hunt. That's what they call not reading the room. With Antares saying, worry not, I shall kindly give all of you a rope necklace. As she is facing off Neraid, and this sets up the fight for the next chapter. And we are all caught up with GALAXIAS. Man, this series really knows how to hype you up, and we got to this set of fights incredibly quickly. So we got Antares versus Neraid. I don't know what Yerk's is going to do. He's probably just going to hold down and try and kill Geo at some point. Hopefully we see some more of Geo trying to outwit her opponent because there's nobody there to help her. Kerner is going to fight Schmidt, so I'm curious to see how these two are going to fight. This arc is definitely ramping up already, and I'm so excited to see how this is going to play out because Antares shows that she is incredibly powerful, and she is definitely going to be the first person to really test Neraid in a really big way. Chalk did a good job, but that was more so out of technicality with how his abilities are. So I'm curious to see how someone that seems to be an utter powerhouse will deal with Neraid. And I also like the callback to the GALAXIAS book, showcasing that is going to be something way more important later down the road. And it seems to be one of the major clues that Yuri left for Geo to go on her eventual adventure and maybe find Neraid for all he knows. There's just a lot to really consider, how much of this Yuri Holst planned, how much of this he didn't. There's a lot going into the series. Despite us getting more actual information on Neraid and Yuri Holst, there's still a lot to think about and consider when it comes to the wider story of GALAXIAS, and I'm very excited to actually keep following this story with you guys. But let me know in the comment section what you thought of these chapters, what you think is going to happen next. How do you like the paneling? How do you like Antares' new entrance to confront our main cast? How do you feel these fights are going to go in the future? And do you like the artwork and panel work as much as I do? The final 2-page spread is also a really nice work of putting these panels together to represent a face-to-face showdown with Neraid and Antares with their tails just going into each other's panels. It's really damn cool, and I cannot wait to see how the future of this series is going to look with more time put into it. And again, let me know, do you want me to do these videos every 2 weeks as the chapters release, or would you like me to do batch reviews like this for every 2 to 3 chapters? Let me know in the comment section down below, and don't worry, I will make more GALAXIAS content outside the chapter reviews. But let me know what you guys think. And what's more, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Now with all that said and done, I hope you all have an awesome day.